men. And I use the term in a manly way again today. Rat Rod. Yeah. I cheated. It's done. After the front end was put together, the rest of it was pretty much routine assembly. Nothing that I thought was particularly interesting, so I didn't video it. It did manage to throw me a couple of curveballs in the final stages. Nothing too severe, but I'll show you. I'll show you what at least one of them was in a little bit here. So we're going to take a look around this thing, do a little comparison to what it looked like before, and then we're going to take it out and give it a ride. I haven't even tried to start it yet. I assume it's going to run. The owner said the engine ran fine last time he messed with it, and I guess that was probably a couple of years ago. But he thinks it should run fine, so we're going to find out. I don't know. Like I say, I've kicked it through a few times just to make sure the engine rotated still, and it does. So anyway, let's take a look at it, and we'll take it out and give it a little test spin. The wiring. The wiring. Of course, the whole harness was remade. The oil tank. Cut the relief in it and re-welded it so the battery comes in and out over here. And yeah, the bolt interferes with the regulator a little bit, but it does come out without a great deal of effort out this side. So a tremendous improvement over having to remove the oil tank. And the oil tank is shock mounted, so that should minimize the chances of the mounts cracking and breaking like they're prone to do. So frame kind of stuck out this way. This is where the second bolt hole would have been for the fender strut. And they just cut it off in an angle. Looks like maybe it was torched to match the angle of the bolt-on hardtail. Up in here, the jagged chunk of frame that stuck out in this direction, I cut it off, ground it all down, smoothed it up, cleaned it up in here. The seat is just kind of, we'll make an actual bracket for that. The seat is now sitting on a real bracket, and it's really attached to the motorcycle, something that I usually find to be a desirable feature. Look at the damn kickstand. Would you trust that? Remember the nasty weld where the kickstand was spliced together. Cut the kickstand off. I didn't show this on video, I probably should have. Machined a tube that was just the same as the outside diameter of this big fitting up here. Anyway, slipped this top fitting into the tube, slit the tube down the side, and I could then stick it in the 3-jaw chuck on the lathe. Once I got it in the chuck, I bored the remains of the old kickstand out of the center of this. Took the kickstand because it was too long in the first place, and shoved some of it up inside here, and then welded it all the way around. So kickstand fixed. Brake pedal is bent one way, the foot peg is bent the other way. Brake pedal and foot pedal. Brake pedal was heated up, bent back to shape. It's now straight and it lines up with the foot peg nicely. Powder coated it too just because. And of course the front forks. There is no stop under here. It just flops over until the fork hits the frame in this area here. Front fork neck area. There are now legitimate stops for the fork. So the front forks, the springer, the forks, the axle, the rockers, the springer. This was a total disaster up here and extremely dangerous. The axle was way too short for these rockers, and the nut on this side only engaged the axle by 1 or 2 threads, and I'm not making this up. Take a look at the earlier videos if you want to see the the condition of it. But anyway, put a real axle in there. The axle's plenty long. It's got threads machined on the other end. The nut engages full length. I've got new spacers in here to hold the wheel center. These spacers are within a couple of thousandths of an inch of length of each other, so the wheel is dead nuts exactly centered. The pivots for the rockers, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side, had to remake those, had to remachine those. There's little bearings down in here, little bearings down in here, and the rockers, those were replaced. So you got new, I call them T-bolts, they're not really T's, well they're kind of T's. But anyway, had to machine these, couldn't find them on the internet anywhere. But anyway, got this all sorted out, got a new wheel on it, and I'm sure you can see the new wheel doesn't have a brake either, but you can put one on there. The owner really didn't want a brake, but I convinced him to go with this wheel because if he decides to put one on later on, and I think he's going to, it'll be fairly easy to add a disc on this. This is why you should run a carb brace. Carb mount, very rigid on here right now, not flopping around anymore. Replace the crappy ass band clamps, manifold band clamps, with the heavy duty stainless steel T-bolt ones. This thing ain't going anywhere. Here's one of the curveballs the bike threw me during final assembly yesterday. The carb of course was on here, and I installed the gas tank for the first time with the petcock on it. The lever on the petcock was hitting the top of the carb. But what I ended up doing, which I've had to do before, is I made a manifold spacer so the carb moved out, and that now gives room in here for the petcock lever to clear the top of the carb. One of the reasons this was a problem is because this is a Mikuni round slide, you know, the top of the carb sticks up, you know, yay much above the throat, and if it was a Bendix or a Keegan or an S&S, you know, the carb would be shorter, the top would be shorter, and you wouldn't have the clearance problem. But anyway, that threw me for a little loop there yesterday, and had a, you know, call an audible, so to speak, to get the manifold spacer straightened out to get room in there for the petcock. Oh, here's the other thing. Like a year ago, this particular owner had the trans out of this because he was trying to get it running a year ago. He brought it to me. I looked it over. It looked okay, but he says it doesn't shift gears. Shift lever was binding up. Checked the earlier videos in this playlist. Did a lot of work on the trans. Found a lot of little things that were assembled incorrectly. I've got every confidence this is going to work great. Scabby welds. The brake arm has been extended. And it wasn't long enough, so right here's a coupling nut, and they added another hunk of threaded rod on there. Okay, brake rod. I managed to find one angle where the brake rod could go straight from the crossover shaft all the way to the brake arm back here without hitting anything. I had to make a spacer to move the end of the brake rod inboard about 3/4 of an inch. I was worried about the crossover shaft flexing, so I welded another ear onto the crossover shaft so the brake the brake rod now fits between the ears of the yoke so that it won't flex at all. So notice the spliced brake rod with the coupling nut is gone. Because I found the one angle that the rod would, you know, fit through without hitting anything, I was able to use a stock brake arm back here, and very happy with this. I ground new ramps on the cam so that when you activate this brake, the cams will hit the shoes and the force will be gradually increasing. Whereas before, you know, they just left the corner square and it'd ride up on the corner. It just looked like it was going to be a problem. But anyway, that's all fixed up. That should work good. Dog collar license plate frame, gone. That is neat. I don't know what we're gonna do with it exactly, but it was kind of held on with zip ties. Okay, got the sissy bar installed as one continuous piece of metal from one side up to the middle and down the other side to the frame. No more zip ties holding the sissy bar on. To whoever made this, I give you a lot of credit. I really like this sissy bar. That thing is cool. I'm glad we were able to save it for this build. I really like this thing. You know, the bike is all black. The handlebars, the sissy bar. It kind of gives it that, you know, son of Satan, you know, spawn of Satan look. And I think it's cool. To me, it kind of makes the bike. A couple of other incidentals. The coil used to hang on a couple of brackets down here. Moved it over between the cylinders. I think it's just a neater installation. The owner picked out these graphics. The owner made arrangements with the painter, and they got it this kind of semi-gloss hot rod black paint job. Like I say, the whole bike kind of has that spawn of Satan look to it, and I really kind of like it. After I moved the coil to where the horn was, I had to find a new home for the horn. So there you have it, down, you know, below between the frame rails over there. Kind of tucked it up out of the way. The owner probably wouldn't have a horn if the state of Texas didn't require a horn to pass its safety inspection. Headlights, the bike had some cheesy rectangular plastic headlights. The owner found these somewhere. Back in the 70s, these were popular, these triangular headlights, so he wanted kind of a retro look. And like I said, I think this all adds to that spawn of Satan kind of look the bike has. But anyway, headlights. The previous headlights were mounted to the part of the springer that bounces up and down, and I'm sure it would have destroyed those headlights in fairly short order. These headlights are mounted to the part of the springer that doesn't bounce up and down, so they should last a lot longer, I would hope. All in all, I'm very happy with the way this bike turned out. I think it looks great. Hopefully the engine will run like the owner thinks it will run, and hopefully there won't be any major problems with it. So the only thing left is to take this outside and fire it up. So let's go do that. All right, let's see if we get it running. Key is off, choke is on. Let's turn the key on, open the throttle. All right, GoPro on the handlebars. I find that giving it a couple of kicks, choke on, key off, throttle shut to prime it. Turn the key on, give it about a quarter throttle, then it usually fires. No insurance,
no plates, no brake. It's going to be a short test ride.